Ginger Baker, the legendary drummer of Cream and Blind Faith alongside Eric Clapton, was one of rock's most fearless and outspoken musicians. Known for his fiery temper as much as his unmatched drumming style, Baker redefined what it meant to play drums in a rock band. He pioneered the use of double bass drums, incorporated African rhythms into Western rock, and extended drum solos into a central element of live performance. While critics and musicians alike hailed him as one of the greatest drummers of all time, Baker's opinions about his peers were often unapologetically blunt. Many admired him, from Neil Peart of Rush to Chad Smith of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, yet Baker rarely returned the compliment. Among the many drummers he judged harshly, two names stood out as the ones he openly criticized most: John Bonham of Led Zeppelin and Keith Moon of The Who. The rise of Ginger Baker's legacy. Before exploring those criticisms, it's important to understand Baker's stature. His breakthrough came in 1966 with Cream, where he stood shoulder to shoulder with Eric Clapton and Jack Bruce, keeping up with their improvisational brilliance while delivering powerful, jazz-inspired rhythms. His drumming was described as primal yet sophisticated, raw yet inventive. His mentor, the jazz drummer Phil Seaman, instilled in him a love of swing and syncopation that gave Baker's playing an almost otherworldly feel. This style influenced countless drummers who followed, even those who never consciously studied his work. His disdain for heavy metal as a genre didn't stop younger players from citing him as a blueprint for power and precision. With such a towering legacy, Baker felt secure enough to speak his mind about anyone, no matter how revered. Ginger Baker on John Bonham. John Bonham is widely hailed as the greatest rock drummer of all time, admired for his unmatched groove, thunderous power, and subtle dynamics. Songs like When the Levee Breaks and Kashmir remain masterclasses in rock percussion. Yet Baker dismissed Bonham's reputation. In interviews, he recalled moments when Bonham appeared overly confident, even recounting how Bonham once declared, "There are two drummers in rock and roll, Ginger Baker and me." Baker flatly rejected the comparison, claiming Bonham, though technically skilled, did not have the ability to truly swing in the way jazz-influenced drummers could. For Baker, music had to breathe, move, and flow. And he felt Bonham's style, while powerful, lacked that quality. This perspective was controversial, especially since Bonham himself admired Baker, but it reflected Baker's uncompromising view of musicianship. Ginger Baker on Keith Moon. If Bonham was the powerhouse of Led Zeppelin, Keith Moon was the whirlwind heart of The Who. His explosive and chaotic style gave the band its manic energy and inspired drummers for generations. Moon's fills on tracks like Won't Get Fooled Again or My Generation remain iconic for their unrestrained creativity. Yet Baker, despite being close friends with Moon, did not consider him a great drummer. He admitted that Moon had a unique flair, but argued that his brilliance only came when he played in a style similar to Baker's own. In Baker's eyes, Moon was more a showman than a technically refined musician. To him, drumming required structure, rhythm, and swing, and Moon's unpredictable approach simply didn't measure up to those standards. It was a harsh verdict that many fans and fellow musicians strongly disagreed with, yet Baker never softened his stance. Brutal honesty or harsh judgment? So, was Ginger Baker offering unfiltered truth, or was he being too dismissive of two fellow icons? On one hand, Baker was fiercely protective of drumming as an art form rooted in jazz and African tradition, and he judged others by those high standards. From that perspective, his critiques of Bonham and Moon reflected his belief that true greatness came from swing, subtlety, and musicality, rather than pure power or chaos. On the other hand, Bonham and Moon each revolutionized rock drumming in their own way, leaving legacies that continue to inspire new generations. Their influence is undeniable, even if Baker refused to acknowledge it. A legacy of contradiction. Ginger Baker's life and career were filled with contradictions: genius and chaos, brilliance and controversy, admiration and disdain. His criticisms of Bonham and Moon remind us of his fiery nature and uncompromising standards. Whether one agrees with him or not, Baker never pretended to be anything other than himself. Brutally honest, unafraid of conflict, and fiercely protective of his craft. Perhaps that's why his legacy, like his drumming, remains impossible to ignore.